Welcome, sir, and pleasure to have you on stage for a slightly open-ended discussion. And obviously, you've done a lot on this area where we are trying to address the employability challenge, marrying education to employment and creating the bridge. India is probably the only country growing younger by the year. And I think we have a very large young population that is coming in to career paths, and that is a key role challenge that we are going to have to address. And just from a broader aspect, I think even for the government, the call is for employment and employability. So just as a broader aspect, how do you look at it from the government's aspect towards the challenges that we have for the younger population?
Well, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. In India, we do not have any small problem. In India, like our size, we have a big problems. And getting the employment and jobs is one of the key concerns of the government. And that is what you would see in the latest budget itself, where it has been very clearly mentioned that, and a lot of initiatives have been designed. One or two particularly belong to the skilling landscape per se. But the idea, there are two, three things which become evident in the way we read, or as like you would like to read the government mind. One is that there is a lot of emphasis on the creating employment, whether it is manufacturing or service or whatever. There's a lot of emphasis on the way we generate data as well, as you would finding out that the PLFS data is also being redesigned, and it's coming on a quicker intervals. There's also a recognition that every sector which requires skilling that part. And all of this is being led in the front by our Honorable Prime Minister. Wherever he is there, he will always speaks about the skilling and the jobs and making our youth not only educated but also skillful. And as Mr. Shantanu Rooj was just saying, the key is that how we disenthrall ourselves from the mindset of the degrees and go towards competences. And the way the things are developing, there are a lot of things during the course of discussion, perhaps we can deliberate in detail about the skilling part, which I may be allowed to speak on. The way it has been brought into the first is the education skill work continuum. That is becoming very, very clear. On the other side of the divide is how do we create the jobs in different areas, and how do we match all them put together. And a lot of things has happened. National education policy is one, and the skilling ecosystem which we have developed over the last 10 years, which is quite robust, and the Skilling Digital Hub which we have created, and the way we are working towards skilling with different departments, different sectors, whether it is a green hydrogen, whether it is PM Vishwakarma, whether it is the PM Janvan, you name the sector where we are working them. And the one thing is becoming very, very clear to me, I have been in this sector for a long time. One is that the emphasis on designing our whole learning process, education and skilling, so that in every sector there is an emphasis on the skilling part. And second part is very important, which is that on our side we are doing it a lot of customization. So it's not that one size fits all, so there's a lot of customization is also happening. And the way that the government intent in terms of policy pronouncements, schemes, funding, etc., is also very clear. And we have the technological, our Skilling Digital Hub and other technological things. The platform is also being made ready, which are there talking to each other. So I would say that now it is time for us to aim bigger and go for bigger things which we need to do. So the systemic things have been handled, and this is our time that how do we go the process further with our feet on the pedal that we can move forward.
But just in context to what you just brought up about trying to embed the skill element into education, and if we step back first into school education itself, I mean, most employers are asking for basic skills beyond the rote learning that comes in. So is there a way to re-look at the education at a primary school level to start factoring for skill interventions and skill development as a way forward for kids to be ready in the future?
Mr. Reddy, you would recognize that whatever competencies which you are talking about, they will start right before the child is born, you know. So, and the way the pregnant mother gets the nutrition first 4 or 5 years of their life, and we have the early childhood education, which is also very, very important. Insofar as the skilling becoming part of the education is concerned, I would recommend that we should go back again to the National Education Policy 2020. It very clearly mentions that from class 6 to 8, there will be world of work. 9 and 10, there will be optional subjects on the vocational education, as we call it. And 11, 12, there will be further specialization so that the kid, if he or she wants, after doing 12, they can straight away go to the work environment as well. And as you said about the other skills like financial skills, digital skills, etc., all these things have to be embedded into the education part, and a lot of work is happening. So I would say that I just give 2 instances so that the audience here, they are able to grasp the things. When we say education and skilling need to be brought together, what it means education into skilling and skilling into education. How education is getting into the skilling, right? That is happening through the National Credit Framework, where the skilling part, experiential learning, classroom learning, they are brought on the formula of the credit and they are made equivalent. How do you bring skilling into education? That is happening through the National Credit, the curriculum framework. 6, 7, already the things have come out. We are working very, very closely with the Department of School Education, and that is where it's going to happen. Insofar higher education is concerned, for which TeamLease may have a few things to say, we also have the apprenticeship embedded degree programs are also there. A framework has also been designed, and UGC and AICT have brought it out. UGC is going to bring it out so that we have a very, systematic way of bringing skilling elements into the higher education itself. And I keep on interacting with the Department of Higher Education, UGC and AICT guys every day, every week. And I find there is a sea change in the way the education is being looked after, Mr. Reddy. And you will find more and more takers for those courses which have these skilling or practical or application-based learning elements rather than the mere scholarly or classroom teaching.
Because I think, historically, as TeamLease, we've generated jobs, and a lot of candidates have been rejected. While they've had the degrees, they've not had the skill sets that the industry has asked for. But when we speak to parents, they always talk about the social signaling value of a degree. That at least if my kid is not going to get a job, he or she will get married by virtue of the fact that the degree has happened. But I think that element of the social signaling value is now shifting more towards skills. And as you called out, I think there's a lot that has happened on the whole element of the National Skill Qualification Framework, the modularity between certificates, programs, and all of that. But just from a larger element of the higher education, is there a need for us to relook from the academic to the skill side and place to the whole element of work integrated learning and everything else, and just make it more modular for people to be able to learn on the job and earn while they're learning?
So I think there are many examples, and your TeamLease is just one example. And I would say that The UGC and AICT and NCVT, they are the three regulators. NCVT does the regulation for the skilling side, UGC does for the higher education, AICT does for the management and engineering colleges. All three are unanimously, they have agreed and brought out the guidelines that for any higher education skilling, until 50% can be application-based, which is skill-based. So the first is making our regulation, making a space for this kind of learning, mechatronics, BSc mechatronics. So all these courses are being geared towards the need of mechatronics, BSc mechatronics. So all these courses are being geared towards the need of mechatronics, BSc mechatronics. So all these courses are being geared towards the need of mechatronics, BSc mechatronics. So all these courses are being geared towards the need of mechatronics, BSc mechatronics. So all these courses are being geared towards the need of certain industry. While doing that, it is, and we also have the framework of the apprenticeship with us. We have the NATS scheme, which is there, also there. We recently, government has also announced the internship, which is a different thing altogether, where the 22 to 24 age group youth will be allowed to work in top 1,500 companies and all that. So what I'm trying to say is there is a need which is being felt by the families, parents, students, academia, of bringing this application-based learning into their curriculum. Because if they don't, they will lose out. Second part is that when our students are going there, what do they get? And you have one example. There are many other examples where they work and also learn. And I would say that there also we need, I dare say that they also need a little bit of balance, because the roles and responsibilities of the three elements, which is the academic institutions, the industry, and the coordinator and the students, that need to be very clearly laid down, which we have tried to do in our suggested guidelines, which we have prepared with the UGC and AICT. So the responsibility is to fixed. But now the question which emerges is how much to be added, how it will be imparted, what do they get in return, who assesses what, how the assessment and certificates are being seen, how it is done on the credit basis, and how it will be recognized ultimately by the employer. So we need to work on a different, it's a broad spectrum in which we need to work, and slowly as we go ahead, we'll find solutions specific to those sectors. For example, logistics will be something different, manufacturing, automation was something different, and the fashion designing was something different. So there will be different, ITS will be something different. So one size will not fit all. So what the policymakers have done is that we have made the framework. We are very clear which are the roles, what roles each are to play, and the semblance of the balance between all the three, which leads to the employability and employment finally. That is something which a lot of things are happening, and I'm sure with the framework in place and examples in place, things will work out well.
And I mean, we are totally of the belief that multiple interventions, innovations have to happen to see what works, because we are trying to solve a very large problem across diverse sectors and regions of the country, and no one solution is going to be a fit-all for it. But in the process also there is the element of financing, the skill financing, which is a big challenge, because I think at a level, corporates are wanting trained candidates, but finding it difficult to pay for training. Individuals are not wanting to go in for training, but willing to pay for a job. And training companies are not able to fill their classrooms until they break the bank on their marketing budgets. So is there a view on how a partnership on skill financing can come about?
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. See, there are two conundrums which we need to bring about this skilling. And I am saying in a very general term, then I'll come to the skill financing. Insofar as long-term training is concerned, largely, but also for the short-term training, the conundrum is that how do we get it, match it to the requirements of the industry on day-to-day basis? Because the way things are changing, Industry 4.0 automation and all that. We have to do our skilling and the vocational education in line with that. And that is the biggest challenge which we face in the long-term training. And it is in that regard that this budget, we have an announcement made for 60,000 crores, in which the ITIs need to be updated, revived, 200 hub ITIs, 800 spoke ITIs in general. Also the courses and the National Skill Training Institutes to be upgraded. And that is where I take this forum also to appeal through this stage to all the industries to come together and work. Here the Government of India, Government of State Government, they are paying the major part, and some part has to come from the industry. So what kind of working arrangement will be there so they're able to have our ITIs, etc., sector-specific needs, manufacturing otherwise. We create a very high level of training institutions, which on the one hand works for the ITI +2 level and also for the higher level. That's an example which we are trying to find out, and I would welcome the industries to join us and give us their ideas and suggestions. In the problem with the short-term training is who funds what. So there is a demand-based financing is very much required. So we have different examples. For example, in this budget itself, we have got the skill loan, which has been revitalized. Earlier it used to be 1.5 lakh, now it is 6.5 lakhs. We have allowed the NBFCs also to come in. We also allowed the non-NSK courses also to come up. So whatever the market needs in terms of the fresh skilling, in terms of the employees which are already working in the company, they need to reskill and upskill themselves, that is also part is taken care of. And we expect that there will be a lot of offtakes in that. It's a credit guarantee, so which is quite useful to them. So we had whatever we had to do to liberalize, to make it streamlined and make it acceptable by the funding institutions as well as the people who want this finance, we have made it clear. Second part is that we also have the skill bond scheme, which we already have one or two examples, and there's a social stock exchange is also coming. So finally, I foresee that for even the short-term skilling, everything will go towards that area where there is a very demand-based financing for the skilling. And this third thing is the skill vouchers. So we are working on that concept a little bit further, and especially in certain sectors which we find out. So the student goes there, chooses what skilling he or she requires, where they want to require, whether that institution is capable and worthy enough of getting that skilling, and they get the redemption done. So all these three elements, if we start working together, then we will be able to see that there is some financing is required. Finally, there is also one part which will be there from the company's point themselves. And companies have to come forward and give the apprenticeship opportunities to our youth. So that apprenticeship as well as internship, which has come recently, which is also being largely funded by the governments. And that is where we will find that the level of the financing improves. And on our part, the government, we have our schemes and budget, etc., which, as I said, we are trying to customize as much as possible, and that will also be available. But if it is topped up, then certainly we can see a lot leveraging that we can do a lot of financing in this case.
And clearly, I think in line with what you called out, industry is coming to the table to participate because it's a problem that they face in a large way on a regular basis. But taking it to what you called out on the apprenticeship aspect, our 8 lakh apprentices ideally should be 100,000 100 lakh plus and so on and so forth, given our volumes and opportunity. So just as corporates and policy, how do we drive that 8 lakh apprentice numbers to go up substantially?
See, we already have seen a very large jump. And that we did, when you talk about such questions, then first you see within you what is that you can do. So I start with that. We had around 2.5 lakhs earlier, 2 years back, and now it is around 8.5, 9 lakhs. And that is where the ceiling comes,
Yes.
And that is the toughest part. Initially, it is very easy. So what we did, we simplified our processes to a great extent, and even with the DBT and constant follow-up that we could lead to that. If you want to increase the number of apprentices, then, as I've been telling Manish also, we need to improve our apprenticeship embedded degree programs. And when that starts happening, we have around 3.75 crore students who are there in higher education. If some of them, even say 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 40 lakh, they enroll into the apprenticeship, then we have that objective met. Third thing is that we also need to break how do we go to the MSME level. What beginning has been made by the internship scheme in which the big corporates, they will take the interns down their value chain. Similar kind of example we need to set for the MSMEs, for the apprentices, etc. And in order to give them, need to make it more flexible. And that is what we are after, and this is what we are going to issue the guidelines, that how do we make it more flexible and suitable for the MSMEs, because that is 90% of our workforce is there. The biggest threat the MSMEs feel is that if they train somebody, he will run away and join another company. So how do we overcome that? So we have to design these perfect incentives so that the large number of the workforce which is there in the informal sector, if we bring the apprentices by different examples there, then we have our job done.
And I think, partially to what you called out, one of our initiative through DLED Tech is DigiVarsity, trying to bring kids who are in the learning to learn through stipend and on the job kind of a thing. But also the challenge lies between the domain of state and center. There are a lot of early education and healthcare and all of that are with the state governments. Some of the elements around skill and employment are concurrent subject. So how can the ironing out of the two working together, the state and central government, drive the aspect of employability in a better, larger way?
This is really a tough question, because that is the heart of all the governance problems which we face in India, and skilling in particular. See, the real action is at the state level. The investments are coming in at the state level. The industries are being set up at the state level. They have different clusters. The student, youth, young people are there in the state. So that is where the real action lies. What does the state government do? What does the central government do? Central government gives a policy framework. It allows the common public, digital public goods and otherwise. It starts giving funding. For example, if you talk about the ITI scheme itself, where the major part, 50% will come from the central government, 30% will come from the state government, rest with the industry. So these are kind of the examples, I would say, viability gap, or giving them, I would say that for ITIs, Government of India may work like an angel investor. You do so much of funding, let the state come with the industries concerned, let the state choose the ITIs, and we guide them whatever we can, depending upon, because we get all the different states' view, which is very, very important to us, which is not available to all the state governments. Many state governments have done phenomenal work. Many state governments haven't done it, but that is a general picture in all the aspects of our public life. And that is where some require some more support. Some are going far ahead than that and idea is that how do we bring the runners and the laggards together, and that is where the role of the central government is there. But I admit that the real action, unless we bring the state governments together, we will not be able to solve the skilling and employment problem.
And it is, our view has always been virus needs a host, and if we can at least get a state or two to get ahead, others will copy the same. Because the challenges on the ground for all governments are about the same. Jobs and employability and stuff. So I think key has been to work one or two states with the leeway in the framework available.
There are also the labor-sending states, labor-consuming states. So that is also a good paradigm on which we can work.
Yeah, because biggest challenge we've always found over the last 25 years is we've never been able to take jobs to people. We've always been having to take people to jobs. And West and South being the job creators, North and East being the candidate givers, has kind of played out. But I think the role of the state and central working together becomes very essential for us in the long haul to the solutioning. Also, just from an element of, I know there, like we called out earlier, and you said there's a lot being done, a lot of trial and error elements that will happen. Just translating what has happened in other countries or economies that are ahead of us on the employability game. Is there something for us to learn from that and do in India?
Whatever the policy frameworks when we bring, there is a sufficient element of what is happening in the other countries itself. So in the government of India, whatever we make, we always see what are the international benchmarks, what has happened well here and there. In this regard, what I would like to say is that even though India has a unique condition, there's certainly we can learn many things from others as well. And for example, this sector skill concept still was the UK concept. The short-term skilling concept is also from other developed countries. The emphasis which are trying to put on manufacturing and the ITIs is, say, it has happened in China and other East Asian countries. So we have different examples. Apprenticeship itself is a German concept, English concept, a Ethiopian concept.
Yes.
So all these things are working together in a different context and different needs. In the new skill policy which we are trying to bring out, we'll be coming out with the first draft in another 2 months, and we'll discuss with this kind of audience there also to get their feedback. There also we're taking a lot of things into account, what has worked elsewhere, what has worked in Korea, what has worked in South Africa, what has worked in Indonesia, and what should work here, and how we can adapt to our Indian conditions.
Yeah, because I think that is extremely important. We skip the learning curve, go with what works, and try and innovate thereafter on other things. So just a few minutes left. I just wanted to see if anybody in the audience had a question or two before we end it. Yeah. Yes, can you hear, sir? I'll repeat the question. Yeah. Udit, we can hear you. You can speak up.
And economically disadvantaged youth get access to quality education, job opportunities, and skills training.
I'll confine myself to what can happen from the skilling side. The fact of the matter is that after 14 years of age, the free education has to be given. And there are schools, government schools which are there. It's also a state subject. And there are a lot of things which have been done, and there are a lot more needs to be done. Insofar as the skilling part is concerned, as I told that the national curriculum framework which is there, what do we teach? At what level? To what complexity? That has already been provided in the national curriculum framework. And we are also realizing that at some level, there has to be a universal skilling, which is in terms of the digital skilling, financial skilling, and all that, which all the small kids, how do they work on mobile and all that. So that also there has to be universal skilling, there has to be horizontal skilling, and there has to be vertical skilling part in terms of increasing complexity. So there are many schemes from the government in the education department. Many state governments have done it. We have the PM Shri program is there, Samagra Shiksha is there, where the skilling and education are being brought together. CBSE and other models, they are also doing a lot of things on that. We have also working with the school education department at what level, what NSQF level the courses can be brought in the education part. On our side, wherever we have any skilling, there is always an element of employability skills attached to that. So for example, the person is having a short-term skilling or the ITI, etc. In ITIs, we have an exams also for that. So that there are 6-8 modules in which the candidates are being taught the certain basic things which they require, how to communicate, financial literacy, digital literacy, their rights, duties, and all that things are also being provided. So that we whatever has been missed out in the education side, that is being given to them. And tomorrow that same thing can be given in a better way in case we have to give them skilling for the entrepreneurship as well.
Dr. Vidya, I think, had a question.
Sir, I'm Dr. Vidya, the Pro-Chancellor of Symbiosis International University. My question to you is on the apprenticeship program, which you did mention. So I think we need, I mean, that's really a very nice program, but not taken off as well as what one would expect and the way it's taken up in other countries. So I think we need to sensitize the chambers, you know, the various chambers of commerce, because I think the reluctance is more from the industry to, while there is funding available, even then the industry doesn't come forward to take apprentices or students as apprentices in their, even the hotel industry. I mean, we have run a school of culinary arts. Students go for internships, but when we speak about apprenticeship, either they're not aware or, there is just lack of understanding. So internships is what they're aware of, but not apprenticeship. So can we, bridge this gap maybe through companies like TeamLease?
Yes, I agree that, but who has to take the lead? So when you're talking about the higher degree, like your courses, universities, and their students going for apprenticeship, so I would say that there's a fair amount of responsibilities also on the academic institutions. The apprenticeship is a legal requirement. It is as part of the act. And in the terms of the making the ease of business, doing business, we have not made it. It was earlier used to be penal thing. Now it has been done on the fine thing, etc. And only way out is to inform and tell the industries that it's a win-win situation for them. And many industries are doing it. And many others find it that they are getting apprenticeships rather more cumbersome. So on which, as I said, we have already made things very, very easy for them and will make it more easy for them. And we need to continue to sensitize them. So there's general amnesia we have found, I will say amnesia. So we have to give them a small dose of the reality so that they realize that it is their legal duty as well to have apprentices, as well as a social responsibility. And it makes a lot of economic sense that in terms of getting the people ready for the work, their job attrition also decreases. They're also getting candidates which they can test for so many months and see whether they can be employed or not. So I think only answer is outreach and little amount of pressure. And certainly the academia is taking a front lead in that and enlisting the government help wherever required in engaging with the industries.
I mean, I think sorry, if I can just add to that, I think the whole element of a partnership between academia, industry, and policymakers is really what would drive the success of apprenticeships. There's no debate about it not being required. It's just about enforcing it, making it more acceptable, streamlined, and in a sense funded, whether corporate or otherwise, and driving the adoption up. So thank you very much and appreciate your time, sir.